Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Saturday morning, so you know what that means. It's time for Juice with JJ, where we talk about things that make you go, Last Juice with JJ, we talked about how to know you're the kind of person who gives to others at your own expense. If you missed it, please go to buildingwealthtogether.com and press podcast to download the episode. Most of us who fall into that category know it hurts deep down inside, but we ignore those feelings until every so often they bubble up when someone's hurt us. Then we feel hurt, taken advantage of, and we might even get a little mad about it. But then they smile at us or they invite us to a party and we forget all those feelings. And in the spirit of forgiveness, we fall right back into those unhealthy patterns. And all the while, we think we're being a good person. We think we're treating others the way we'd want to be treated. We think we're showing them God's love and mercy. And what we're actually showing them is actually the opposite. But before I get into that, let's do a little bit of a review. So for those of you who weren't with us last Juice with JJ, therapist Deborah Ward on Psychology Today says that highly sensitive people, or what she calls HSPs, tend to help others instead of themselves because they attract people into their lives who need help. And she says this is for 3 reasons, and we covered those in a little bit more details last time. She said, 1, they remind you of someone from your past. 2, you're a rescuer. Whether it's because you're rescuing because you feel like that's your calling in life, or rescuing because you're trying to solve some kind of problem from your past, or rescuing because you feel like that's the only way you can get approval and acceptance. Number 3, you're too focused on the goal instead of the person. And so for a lot of us that want to help and we want to be an instrument of change in other people's lives, we're so focused on that goal that sometimes we don't see that the person we're working with isn't worthy of our time. So we covered that in a little bit of detail last week. And then I gave you 2 of my 7 indicators that you are falling prey to this trap of helping others at your expense or to your detriment. Some of these are tricky, so I invite you to thoughtfully meditate or even authentically journal about them. The first 2 were, number 1, you have nothing for yourself, but you always have to give for others when they need it. Number 2, you spend a ton of money or time chasing after the next course or the next person who's going to help you succeed, but you haven't fully used the tools that are right in front of you. Now, of course, I resemble both of these remarks, and I actually resemble the rest of the 7. That's why I'm teaching you on it, because it helps me remind myself of where I've come from, right? It also helps me keep from falling back into old habits. So let's keep moving on this list of 7, and then we'll talk about what to do if you find yourself in this list of 7, like I have many, many times. I'm so susceptible in this area, y'all. It's like money. I know God has me teach others how to get right with money, how to win with money, because I have a tendency to spend. I love to have fun and I love to do for others. And I kind of feel like by teaching you this stuff, the Lord is helping me avoid from falling into those same traps again and again. All right. Number 3, your primary love relationships, your spouse, kids, those people who are supposed to be close to you, they're very precarious, but you keep taking in more strays and more projects rather than doing the hard work to fix your relationship with your spouse and kids. Oh boy, I was so guilty of this, y'all. And I was guilty of it because you know what? The hard work hurts. It's hard to admit that I get too angry too quick. It's hard to admit that I'm not doing right by the people that I say I'm doing right to. You know, a year or so ago, I was trying to get to the bottom of what is this divide with my husband. I couldn't figure it out. You know, at first I thought it was the car accident, one right after another. For those of you who haven't heard the story, it's just a whole long sob story. The first one, I couldn't lift my arm for like 8 months. The second one, both of them within the same year, I had brain injury. And so that was a divide, you know, and then I just noticed some things and I thought, okay, well, I'm healing up. I'm doing better. What on earth is going on? I was better at making sure the house was presentable when he came to town, which kind of got frustrating because, you know, I worked hard all week and the last thing I want to do on a Friday night was clean the house. You know what I mean? When he was in town, I was attentive to his needs. I'll say it like that for those of you who have kids in the car. But yet still something was off. And so after you've been married long enough, you know not to ask your husband what's going on in the relationship because he's immediately going to get defensive and go into self-preservation mode. And so I had to kind of come at it from a different perspective. And one of my personal growth courses gave me the opening. I'm talking to Mr. Man in a no-threat environment. We just finished watching a show he likes. Don't try to do this during the show, ladies. We still had some popcorn left, and real casual, I comment that I was on Paul Martinelli's call this week, and he mentioned that we don't realize the way we do some things is how we do all things, and we should examine whether we're liars or cheating people, and that Paul said we immediately say, oh, no, I'm not like that. But the proof is in the pudding. If enough people aren't buying our classes, we're putting out some kind of untrustworthy vibe, right? So we're getting back to this whole concept of number 3, our primary love relationships are precarious, but we keep taking in more strays in projects, okay? That's what I was doing. But I didn't realize that was what I was doing because I actually thought I was pretty awesome. In fact, I couldn't figure out what was going on in my marriage. I thought the problem was with him. Well, I mean, the problem's always with both of us, but you know how it is. Of course, we're perfect, right? And so I'm telling him about this call with Paul. And I'm like, hey, do you think I come across as manipulative? And I'm being real breezy, right? I'm eating some popcorn like this is no big deal. He's like, oh, no. Undisciplined? He's like, oh, no. Hypocritical? He's silent. Too high of expectations? Like I'm going on like I don't catch that it's silence, right? Too high expectations? More silence. What about liar? Oh, no, he goes. So I'm laughing, right? Like, because I know I can't tell a lie to save my life, y'all, right? And so we watch another one of his shows, and in his mind, he got through that conversation unscathed. The way it works for him is like, the minute the lady starts asking these questions, the algorithm starts up in his head of how to solve this problem. Not the problem of what you asked him, but the problem of how do I get through this without losing my meals cooked or my booty privileges, okay? So that's instinctively what's going on. So I have to couch my questions very carefully to get the answers I need. He's watching his show thinking he did a good job, but my mind is catching that he didn't answer no about me being hypocritical and my expectations being too high. Now, I know my expectations are too high. I set a standard of excellence, and you either need to come up or go away. I mean, seriously, I'll help everyone, but you're not going to be in my inner circle if you're not about something, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because I honestly don't have that much free time that I want to spend it with people who aren't supporting me or pushing me to do better. So I already knew that about myself. But hypocritical? How on earth could my husband call me hypocritical? I hate hypocrites. I'm his pastor. And I had to sit down and really ask the Lord to reveal to me how I might be showing up as hypocritical. Now, I'm not saying I am, okay? And so a lot of the things that may be sending out the wrong signals to other people, they may not be actually the way you are. It may just be the way that you're showing up. And that's the way I showed up to him, whether or not he thought I was right. And if he's my priority, then I need to make his concerns my priority. And so the Lord opened up my eyes about some things. And I think they were excuses, honestly, but they were still there. Now, look. I'm not going to tell all my business, but for example, here's one little thing. I was always telling the boys to stop chewing with their mouths open, but routinely asking my husband to do something when I still had food in my mouth. And so I did a little self-awareness, and I realized I myself was driving a wedge between me and my husband, and it's sometimes me and my son. But if anybody outside of the family asked me for help, boy, I was going to bend over backwards to do everything that they wanted done. And I was going to put my family aside to take care of them, which ought not happen, okay? Wow, that was really long. I'm going to try to make the rest of these a little shorter, okay? Maybe I'll cut out some of the personal stories. All right, number 4. This is number 4 of how you know you are hurting yourself by helping others too much. Number 4, you don't charge for your services. And it's not a choice. You don't know how to ask, or you don't feel comfortable asking, you don't want to appear scammy. You can fill in the blank for all the reasons why you don't charge for your services. But let me tell you something. If you have a business that isn't making any money, the IRS doesn't call that a business. It calls that a hobby. I remember the day I put together a conference and I was going to make it free to pack in the attendees. The ladies from my mastermind group all yelled at me to charge. And the leader said, if JJ Conway gives away one more thing, I'm going to kick her out of the group. And I'm sitting right there, but she's talking about me in third person, right? What I didn't know back then is that there is a mindset behind failing to set a price. See, what you're really telling your subconscious mind is that you don't value your time. And when we don't value our time, no one else will. If we don't value ourselves, no one else will. There's a huge shift when people have to exchange something of value for our time. Even if it's $25 or just $1, I challenge you to charge something and see the difference in how you feel about yourself. Now, I'm not saying don't ever give away your time, energy, or products again. I still do all the time. But I don't throw my pearls before swine anymore. And I have learned that my most valuable classes need to have a fee because only the ones with fees do people ever actually finish. Less than 5% ever finish my free classes. That's why I felt confident to put free coupons in the certificates for all who actually complete all the lessons, because guess what? Most don't. Over 95%, however, finish the paid courses and see results in their lives. And that's one of the things that separates me from other financial coaches and financial planners. I don't just want your money. I want your success. Now, do you give away things as a loss leader? Sure. Do you use giveaways to test the market? Sure. Do you give away your time as a tithe of sorts? Of course. I mean, even during COVID, I made my classes free and I used it as market research to see which classes people really resonated with, right? And I'll never forget Dave Meltzer speaking at my second annual Building Wealth Together conference. We're currently planning for year number 6, but back then, nobody knew about it or who I was. And so here's this billionaire reaching out saying he'll speak for free, and I must have sent 20 confirmations to his assistant. Mr. Meltzer knows we're not paying him, right? Well, as it turned out, he had a long layover in D.C. He was coming from Israel, going home to California, and we were a perfect way to spend that layover time. There was a blizzard on the Maryland side of the river, and then a large real estate group planned a last-minute boot camp, so we only had like 15 or 20 people show up. Even paid seats went unfilled, y'all. I was devastated. You know what this man did? He showed up, he gave an amazing presentation that people are still talking about 4 years later, and then he gave us all a free copy of his book. He changed lives that day, and it was part of his tithe to the community. So if your giving is part of a valid strategy, then cool. But you must get compensated for your time, energy, and talent. I've probably told you this story before of how I used to do free financial coaching one-on-one. I'd rush up to North Bossier, pick up my kids, grab them some pizza or something else unhealthy, stuff them in the back office of my church while I coached the free client. Over and over again. There was no way for kids to live, especially since after the second month, the free clients would drop off and go back to their old ways. I'll tell you what, the last time it happened, I spent so much time with this lady, and my boys were getting sick of pizza and being cooped up in the back office, and I vowed never again. Never again would I put my family out to help someone who didn't even appreciate the gold I was giving them. Charge for your services. And if you don't feel confident enough to charge, then let's sit down and talk about why. Oh my goodness, I'm only on number 4. We're already out of time for Juice with JJ. You know, let me ask you this. Are you getting a lot out of this? Can you let me know if you're getting out of this? I mean, I've got 3 more indicators. You might be a person who gives so much that is hurting your future. And I'm thinking maybe we should do a full class on this. Let me know and I'll put one together. And all of you that reach out, I'll let you in for free, okay? So just let me know what you're seeing. And if you're listening to the podcast years later and you want in for free, I'll let you in just for reaching out, all right? That's my gift to you for being good to me, even though I just said charge for everything. Okay, seriously though, if you're frustrated and you feel like you are working so hard but getting nowhere, I want to encourage you to get in the Self-Image Rising class. Now, some of you have already taken it when it was formerly branded as Self-Image Mastery. And I kind of felt like that was a little intimidating for the people that I wanted to attract into the class. I'm looking for people who want to change the world. They have a calling, they have a message, they have a big heart, but they just don't know how to move forward in their life and get past the past. So we've morphed that class into a hybrid class called Self-Image Rising, and you can actually register for the class right now. You can find it on my online school, buildingwealthtogether.com, or you can type in this short code, rebrand.ly/self-image. That's rebrand.ly/self-image. All right, that's all for today's Juice with JJ. Y'all take care and be blessed. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe at jjconway.org. Now go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.